All right, welcome to my channel. My name is Eric. I talk about real estate investing and how to get to financial freedom just like I've done, and I'm not so dependent on a job. So a viewer of mine asked a real good question, Craig162, and I really want to hit on this and break it down because he asked a lot of questions within this one comment. So here we go. All right, the first part of his question, he made a comment. He said a statement and said, hey, look, I have friends who have Section 8 and they had problems. He had those type of tenants. All right, well, I've been doing Section 8 since 2000 and we're in 2026. So I'm still getting Section 8 tenants in my properties, and these are most of my tenants, which I really don't mind. Matter of fact, I prefer that. But let me break that down a little bit, because people don't really understand that these tenants, when they apply for these vouchers, they don't get the voucher right away. They're on this waiting list, and this waiting list can be 5, 10, 15 years, and they will wait because they're about to get free money. They get subsidized rent from the government. So once they get off of the waiting list, they get onto the open market, they get their voucher or their housing packet, so they can go out there and find a property and then get all the paperwork signed by the landlord, owner, and plus you, and then they take it back to the housing authority, and then they start the process. Okay, but I want to explain something to you. This is the major difference right here. All of these tenants that get on this voucher and on this Section 8 program, they're assigned to what you call a caseworker. And this caseworker is the liaison or the middleman between myself, the landlord or the owner, and the tenant. If I have any issues or problems with my tenants, all I have to do is take that problem and issue and address it to the caseworker. That can go any way, right? And it doesn't mean it's good for the tenant. They can end up losing their voucher. So here's what I'm telling you. They have too much to lose when they're on this program because they're getting free money. With that being said, this is exactly why I like dealing with Section 8, because the tenants that I have, they just got too much to lose. Who wants to lose free money? So that's just one thing I'm talking about. And if they don't abide by my lease contract, and everybody should have a lease contract, and you go through it with them, if they don't abide by it, if they're not going and following the rules and the policies, then yes, they're going to be out of my properties. But I have never had that problem since dealing with Section 8, and I've been dealing with it for 26 years now. So just keep that in mind. But a lot of people don't realize that. Of course, the tenants realize this about caseworkers, but people that are not on it, and landlords and owners, they don't really understand that. So let's go to the next question. So another little small add-on to what I was stating earlier is this, and this is any business. If you don't have any procedures and policies in place and any type of structure, it's going to make it hard. And this is any business, but I make sure I have it in mind. And I'm going to give you an example. For example, when it comes to the rent, my policy is this: it's due on the 1st and late after the 3rd. And in between there are going to be late fees. But I immediately, after the 3rd, and I do immediately send out a vacate notice saying I'm going to be starting the process. Some people don't do that. And when you don't do that and you ignore it or let it slide by, then you're setting a precedent for the tenant to say, hey, look, I can get away with this, or I can push it a little bit. These are just little small things I'm talking about that make a big difference in your business when you and implement policies and procedures and you stand by them. Just one example. But let me get to the next question and comment that he made, which is a good point, and it's this. All right, so another great question that he asked was, hey, look, Eric, what problems have you had? And I'll tell you, I've had a lot of problems, I'm not gonna lie. I've had a lot of problems when it came to real estate investing and maybe just dealing with Section 8. So let me give you a couple examples. So number one, so the question was, hey, look, what other problems have you had? Well, one of them was I had issues with pets. So at the very beginning, I didn't have a problem having pets in my properties until I started to realize, wait a minute, this is not going to work. pets started to damage my properties. Even though the owner said that it wouldn't happen, they would. And these were like bigger dogs, by the way. So I started to change up some things. Number one, I charged for a security deposit or pet deposit, which I wasn't doing before. And then number two, I charged them an extra rent for the dog too. So I was charging them, security deposit, a pet deposit, and then rent. So it would go up a little bit extra. So also there was another requirement that I was looking at dogs that would only be accepted if they were small dogs, like little poodles or chihuahuas, just small dogs. I wouldn't let like Great Danes or pit bulls or German shepherds in my property, just small pets. These are some of the adjustments. But let me tell you another issue that I had, and this is what drove me to get into Section 8. So the reason why I got into Section 8 rental to begin with and dealing with specifically Section 8 is because when I first started out, my tenant that I had in there, really nice lady, she went through the process, screened well, there wasn't an issue. She was a bus driver, and into her lease, her third month, unfortunately, she had lost her job. It was nothing that she did, they had laid her off. I started to reprogram and started to rethink, wait a minute, let me figure out another structure and another way to where I can get paid and it won't be interrupted. This is exactly why I got into Section 8, because as I deal with low-income housing Section 8, I've been through all the economic downturns, 2000 dot bubble, 2008 housing crash, which was really, really big. Just giving out some examples. 2019, we had COVID. So where I live at, the city was shut down, and this was most places, especially if you're not an essential worker, like paramedic, if you don't work in the medical field, all right? And you never know when these things can happen. And then the latest thing that we had, just in 2025, October to November, we had the longest U.S. government shutdown in history. Well, guess what? Us as landlords dealing with low-income housing Section 8, we still got paid to the government. So because I had an issue at the very beginning, I learned from it and I pivoted, and this is what got me into Section 8, like I said. So I hope this really answered your questions, and I hope y'all got a deeper insight about real estate investing and how I do it. And if you implement this, guys, you can do the same thing. All right, and to address the last question that he had, and it's this: is the rent or the going rent the same as the market? And I'm gonna give you this answer, and it's this. But they'll do a rent market analysis, and that's how they'll determine what your rent should be according to the other houses. If it doesn't meet it, there are other things you can do to supplement it. Let me give an example. Say it's $100 difference between what you want to rent and what Section 8 will give you. Say there's $100 difference. It goes like this. All you have to do in your lease contract is put in there, for example, landscaping, that you're charging an extra amount for landscaping, right? And that is going to be rolled to the tenant of $100 or whatever it is. I'm just giving an example. But there are ways you can legally supplement your rent for the difference. And that is just one example. I'll charge them for landscaping and maybe something additional, right? Just to compensate for that difference. But it's got to be in writing, and it's got to be in the contract. And it's got to be agreed between you and the tenant. Nothing wrong with it, nothing illegal, all right? So I will always deal with low-income housing Section 8. This is what I found out for me to be the best. It has been recession-proof, and after doing this for 26 years, I haven't lost any properties. I still got tenants in there. They stay in here for a long time because it's hard for them to find properties. And when you as a landlord understand the process, you can have the unfair advantage against other landlords in the market. So again, guys, smash that like button. If you like this information, subscribe. Also, leave a comment down below. See you in the next video.